Hey, it's Christy from Inity, and first I want to wish you a very happy new year, happy 2020, and give yourself some props because you made it through, and I made it through, and we made it through the decade, right? So I hope that you're off to a good start, and I hope that this is the year that you choose to move with intention and to step into your power. So with that being said, I just wanted to share that I did my first IG live video just before the new year, and talk about practice in vulnerability, because that was something that was really uncomfortable, but I got through it. But more importantly, what I talked about was ways you can reflect on your last year, the last 10 years, and how you can take what you've learned and use those lessons moving forward. And so one of the things that I touched on that a few people actually asked me to elaborate on is the idea of the potential challenges that you or many other people are afraid will be encountered as you try to stay in the game, and it's simply because you are getting older. So it's one of those things where, you look forward 10 years and you're like, if I start this project now, I'm going to be X years old when it's finished, or I'm too old to do blank. And a lot of times I hear that too old comment by people who are a lot younger than me, and I'm always like, okay, what do you do? But anyways, I want you, if you're one of those people, I want you to realize that the time is going to pass anyways, whether you do that thing or not. And so for this video, I want to touch on some thoughts and really some insecurities that you might have, and trust me, even I have, that might come up as a creative who is in this negative mental space about getting older. So the first thought or insecurity is that you just won't be able to keep up. And for me, I'm talking about really the digital space and technology, and it can also apply to trends and so forth. But I'm not sure if you knew this, but we are living in the digital age, and it hasn't only affected the operations of daily life, it plays a really big role in creative industries and also in being seen as a creative, if that makes sense. So I think that it's not necessarily a bad thing for you to have to keep up with the digital space, because you're constantly learning, and constantly learning is good for your skill set, it's good for your brain, and it's really necessary because the digital space is constantly changing. So the thing is, you don't have to be on every single digital streaming and social media platform out there. If you are, it's fine, and it has its benefits if you are, but to really benefit from any of them, each platform requires consistency, and they require an understanding of how each one operates, and you also have to implement best practices to reach your intended audience. So my suggestion is, if you are overwhelmed with the number of platforms out there, just stick to the ones that you like using or that you're used to using. Stick to the ones where you have or can build a solid audience. And then when the time is right, you can add another account on something like TikTok if you want. And also, I might add, I would hope that over time you have become more clear and hopefully more confident about who you are as a creative, and you know, or you should know, that there are more people out there that you can reach through the digital space, and who will also get you and get the work that you produce. And you might think this sounds cheesy, but it's so true when I say, like, these people probably need you in their space. Like, they want you in their world because they feel a connection with you. And so they're listening to your music, or they're gazing at your art, or they're watching your videos, and they feel a sense of belonging. And so these are the people who are still going to be your biggest supporters, and you can continue creating for them. You create for yourself, yes, but you create for them and also the community that you built. So the second, I would say, thought or insecurity is you might just feel a little burned out, and I've been there. So, for example, you might have been putting on a weekly or monthly psychedelic cumbia night at the local spot, right? And you've not only been the DJ, you've been, seeking out other DJs and inviting other DJ collaboratives to spin, and you're also the promoter and you're also the graphic designer, and you reached your highest height at one point where your events were always packed, and somehow at some point things fell off and you're having to start over, and just the thought of that tires you out. Or again, in general, you're a creative, and so whether you're a musician or you're a visual artist or a designer, you're always having to hustle, and that itself can be so tiring, especially when you don't have a solid team, and also if you are juggling the day job and your passion project and you've been doing it for a really long time. So what I would say is that you don't have to be at the forefront of every single project. Like, it doesn't have to be your project that you work on. So my call here then is to collaborate with others and add value to their projects. Now, okay, so if you want notoriety, if you want your project to come to fruition, then okay, just know that you're gonna have to take on more, but look at ways that you can pivot. I always talk about pivoting and doing things differently, because you can't do the same shit operationally, because you're going to drive yourself into the ground if you haven't done so already, and then you're also going to lose sight of your passion, again, if you haven't done so already. However, if you simply want to create and continue making a living doing so, just collaborate with other people, partner with someone who has a project coming up, partner with some up-and-comers, these young bucks and so forth, because you have more years under your belt, and that right there is so invaluable. So remember, you don't have to be at the forefront of every single project, and you're not too old to collaborate with other people, especially these zygotes. No offense if you're a little young buck, but you're gonna have your network and resources, they're gonna have theirs, you guys will come together, and then you're gonna create some dope shit, because it's 2020 and I'm all about doing dope shit. So the next thing that kind of dovetails off of the last concept really is all encompassing, and it has to do with being experienced. So the argument or the insecurity could be that, your experience, your past experience might not work for future endeavors. So if you think about it, if you put the work in, even in just the last 3 to 5 years, let alone the last 10 years, if you were to write down every person you worked with, if you were to write down every project you've completed, your resume must be like so sick. And I admire you, and I would love to hear the stories if we ever have that chance to talk to each other. But then my question is to you, when is the last time that you've listed everything you've done? When's the last time you've updated your press kit, your resume, or your client list? Because you should be updating these things constantly. And not only that, it's really good for you to take a step back and really see what you've accomplished and be proud of yourself. You will realize that you have made so many connections and you have so many resources that when the time comes, you can start connecting the dots for a new project or idea. The other thing too, as far as experience goes, is that you've probably made some mistakes, some more serious than others, and you've probably had your ass handed to you, and I know I have in the past, but moving forward, this type of knowledge is just in knowing that you can't prevent every potential failure, but you have enough knowledge to know areas where you can mitigate some risks. And then on top of all of that, you have real life experiences, like lessons learned, and you know that you can get through the rough times. So my hope is that through all of these experiences, you have become more courageous, and you're also more willing to take some risks moving forward. So then you might be asking yourself, or you could be asking me, like, okay, Christy, I want to keep my foot in the creative industry, but I don't necessarily want to do the same exact thing I've been doing the last 10 years. What can I do when this is all I know? And this is where a 9 to 5, just isn't really a reality for you. And I think you know what I mean if you're a creative and you've been doing this for a long time. So I first understand where you're coming from. You want a shift, right? You want to shift. You don't want to do the same exact thing. So what I would say is that number one, again, take stock of your resources, take stock of your connections, and also think about, what is it though that you want to create? Like, what is it that you want to see out there in the world? And then from there, you just start connecting the dots. I don't know, I'm doing this. I'm like, also think about what people tell you you're good at, or think about what people typically go to you for, like whether it's a skill or even advice, because the beauty of being a creative is that you can do just that. You can create. It's not a profound thought, but it's one of those things where you can even create what you do. You can create your job title, and you can hone in on an area of expertise, and that can be what you do moving forward. So I would say really it's just about figuring out how you can be of service to others and continue to contribute to the culture and the next generation of artists and activists. So lastly, I just want to say that we just need to be more open to embracing change. And when time passes, it's inevitable that we're going to get older, and that's even a concept that I am working on making peace with. I have my insecurities about it as well. You are not alone. But sometimes these things are beyond our control, right? Like age. And those things force us to reflect and make changes. So remember that change is very necessary to grow, and you should just go with it. Stop fighting it, make something of it, and soon enough, you're gonna realize that you could not have done back then what you're about to do now. Like, now is your time. So while we're here, let's live our lives with intention, and let's live our lives with purpose. And I want you to get very crystal clear about the things that you want to experience, and notice that I said experience and not achieve, because it's about intention, and it's about intention overriding, goals and resolutions, because intentions focus more on the journey, and you have to trust that the achievements will come. I just want you to have faith. I want you to stay humble, keep creating, pivot as needed, and very importantly, like, maintain healthy relationships, because it makes the journey that much more delicious. You thought you reached your prime back then? No. That was just a little preview of what you're capable of, because you now have the chance to take everything you've learned, experienced, and achieved. You can take those things and begin working to fulfill your purpose for this next chapter of your life. So you're definitely not done. So remember, you are an artist, you are a visionary, and you're a leader, and you're a part of a generation of activists at the forefront of positive change. I want to thank you for watching this little bit of a lengthy video, but it's a good way to start off the new year. I promise we will link next time, and let's go move forward and do some dope shit.